From blueprints to bliss, let's get poppin' with another episode of Plant Co. Playbook. As you can see, we have a new plaza built here, and I know it's been a little bit since I last uploaded, and I apologize for that. For the few subscribers that I have, will grow one day, and I do appreciate every single one of you, but it did take me some time to get back to recording again, and as you can see, we're going to build in a new area today. We will get back to our western area, so for those of you who've been following, we will get back to our western area in the future, but right now, we are going to build right here in this area as we begin our fantasy area. Now, this also brings us into the storyline. I've kind of teased it in previous videos, and today we are getting into the storyline of this particular park and how it began. And so this is basically getting into the storyline of our founder, Winslow Everheart. Now, have you ever had one of those days where your best friend, in this case Winslow Everheart, said something completely crazy, and instead of shutting it down, you're like, yeah, let's totally do that? Well, that's exactly how this area was born. So basically, we were sketching out ideas for the park. I'm one of his people who helped come up with the ideas and the drawings and help this all become a reality. And while we were sketching out ideas, Winslow pulled out his tattered leather journal. And I swear it looked like it had been through 3 rainstorms and maybe a goat attack or something. And inside, there was a doodle of this crooked little village in an old glen. And it had like old cottages and ivy covering them and different things, you know, really kind of old world Europe. And he told me the quote, true story, and I say that in quotes because, well, it is Winslow, who has a great imagination. And basically, Winslow's version of history is basically a fairy tale with better lighting. So supposedly this area was a real place, somewhere out there in the English countryside, like a hamlet where storytellers and clockmakers and daydreamers all lived together. And according to him, well, there was always the smell of cinnamon buns in the air, and no one wore matching socks because, according to him, matching socks are for people with boring lives. So, here's the thing. Winslow swore to me that when he was a teenager backpacking through England, he stumbled into it completely by accident while chasing the sound of distant music. And he stayed there for 3 days. He met a toy maker who built a carousel that could carry you between dreams. And then one morning, the whole place was just gone. No paths to get back, no signs it ever existed. Now, do I believe all of Winslow's story? Well, I don't know about that. But I do believe in the way people light up when they step into this area. And that's the only proof I need. Well, this area's got history laced into every part of the story, including this entrance we're building now. The idea for the design came not just from Winslow's imagination and the story of the little town he told me about. He also wanted it to be a living version of when he visited his grandmother's original home in Gloucestershire. There were old buildings and rows of small cottages and a feeling of comfort. The trees had incredible color in the autumn, and the town was in between all these little hills all around. So, naturally, of course, we did the most logical thing. We rebuilt it with a little bit of imagination, artist interpretation, brick by brick, lantern by lantern. And he told me he even tracked down the cinnamon bun recipe. And right here in the heart of this area, we will be adding our first attraction today as well. So let's build this entrance before we go over the first attraction in our fantasy area, and we'll get to the name of this area as soon as we get this bridge built right over the entrance. Now, this entrance we're building, this came from those drawings that we did, the sketches. We wanted to create a transition into this area because obviously that plaza that you saw at the beginning of the video is just a hub of sorts, kind of like in the Disney parks. And you need a place where you can transition from, let's say, our western area to a fantasy area without them clashing with each other. And so that's what we're doing here. We are creating an area that separates one area from another while making it an easy transition that won't be a shock to you. So here, as we're building between these rows of trees, and we decided on this tree bridge of sorts, because it's kind of a common thing in smaller towns, both here in the US and in Europe, where you'll be walking down a path or a road and trees themselves form a bridge. And I've always been fascinated by that. So when Winslow and I were talking about it, he agreed that it would be this really cool way to go from one area to another, where it would just be like this gentle change in scene, and it would allow for a really nice atmosphere between one area and another. So here you can see we're getting this all put together, and we'll speed build this in a moment so you can get a look at it a little bit faster. But this is where we are right here, just building up these little mounds, and we'll eventually be embellishing those a bit by putting some little walkways and paths and other decoration up there. But for today, we're just getting this in place so that we can build this part of the entrance up. So now as we get closer to where we need to be with that, we'll go ahead and get into the speed build here in just a moment and make this entrance area look incredible. Now, every video that we're going to do here in the future is going to be more of the backstory, more of our story of Winslow and myself working together to get this park together. And we're going to build the entire park. So if you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe. You can even share this video, of course, by clicking the share button. And don't forget to hit that bell notification and turn on the notifications so that you don't miss any more of these videos. Now, I did say at the beginning of the video that I did take a little bit of a break, only because I had some really crazy stuff going on. Nothing bad, just a lot of crazy stuff, and in a good way. And so I had to take a little bit of a break, but now here we are again, and I'll be uploading again as soon as possible as we continue to build out more of this park. Now, if you have any ideas of what you would like to see built next, as far as where we're building and the types of attractions that you think Winslow and I came up with, let me know in the comments. Tell me what you think of the build so far and what we're doing, or what we did as we built this park. And I'll give you more of the story of Winslow and myself and how we made this happen. So here we go, getting this bridge together. Now, this bridge isn't going to be necessarily a functional bridge, at least not yet, maybe in the future. But this bridge we're building here is more of just a decoration. Again, just kind of a gateway from one world to another, and in this case, into our fantasy world. So, watch for a moment while this bridge gets complete, and then we'll jump right back into the commentary. Alright, so we have our basic bridge built there, and now to reveal the name. Bramblewick Hollow. This is the name that Winslow told me was the name of that small little town. And so, welcome to Bramblewick. And now we are going to start decorating our bridge and making this look great. So we've got our sign up letting you know that you're entering Bramblewick. And from there, I did look at a few other things that I wanted to add, but decided to go ahead and just put this together as is, because I didn't want to put too much on the sign, but we are going to decorate it a bit. We'll add a little ivy here. And it took a moment to find the right kind of ivy that we needed for this, but eventually we found it. And Winslow was insistent that this ivy not just be part of the decor, but that it would draw attention to the sign itself. And so that's how we came up with what we have here. And look at that. Framing the sign really nicely here and getting that in place for our Bramblewick entrance. Okay, so we added more color here, just a little more color, just to kind of make it stand out without taking too much from the sign. And being that our theme is in the purples and yellows and blues, we decided to go ahead and keep with those purple colors with our plants. Now here, we needed to put up handrails on our bridge, because, you know, you don't want people walking on a bridge that high off the ground without handrails or something to hold on to. So we added some really nice little rustic handrails to go along our bridge, and we got those into place to give this that nice old European world feel. Did I say that right? I think it sounded kind of weird the first time. But here we go, getting these handrails in place and making sure that people don't fall off our bridge when they're walking across. Because remember, this bridge may in the future, I'll have to talk to Winslow about it, but it may in the future become an actual bridge that we'll use for our guests in the park. But for now, that's a bridge that's mainly just as our transition from one area to another. And then of course taking these posts here to act as supports underneath and getting those in place. And we did kind of debate how far back they should be and how close they should be to the walkway, and eventually settled on bringing them really close to the handrails, as you can see there, and then adding more supports just to make it a nice strong bridge that would last many, many years. Now, Winslow was always really interested in nature and the way things look in nature, so you will see that when we built this park, we always added lots of natural scenery to every area. And one day when we got to building our sci-fi area, we did the same. We even added lots of nature over there, which you'll see in the future when we get to our nature area. I'm sorry, when we get to our future area, our sci-fi area. And here, of course, we added our nice little lights and something to light up the sign a little bit, putting that in place. And then, of course, as always, we make sure to add a little bit of color to our light fixture itself so that the light fixture doesn't stand out too much. It kind of fits in right with what's already there. So we match up the colors pretty well and get that into place. And of course, most of our lighting is a nice warm color, so that uplight that you saw there at the underside of the sign is a nice warm orange, which goes really nicely with that purple and blue above. And then here we decided to go with these light fixtures, which added a nice fantasy feel. Even though they're technically a tropical type thing, they just happen to look right. And we debated for days over what kind of light fixtures to put, and we decided on those. Now here we're adding some more orange light here with our spotlights, and we made sure to hide them from guest view and made sure that they would just graze the edges of our bridge to show off the texture. And of course, plants and flowers all around to accentuate the area and make it a really nice looking entrance. So yellow being a complementary color to all the purple that we have here and all the blue, we went ahead and made brought in some yellow flowers And of course the green goes with everything. And then we brought in more of these plants that we had used in our entrance area of the park that we built in another video. And so you can see that is repeated here. And then we wanted to give this area a nice, not only natural feel of course, but a soft feel. And ferns just happen to give that nice gentle feel that just makes you feel welcome. So we added some ferns, and then of course always adding our rock features. And we made sure to get some of the nicest looking boulders that we could find anywhere. Boy, those were tough to move into our park. There were trucks bringing those in and lowering them into place by crane. Now you can't see the crane of course here, but you know, magic. And then of course we made sure to plant lots of little tiny flowers and some really nice grass all around, just to soften up the area a little bit more. And then we also brought in some pink flowers to kind of accentuate and just add a little bit more texture and color to our entrance area. And this entrance is really starting to pop. So look at that. Some more nice soft looking plants. Yeah, they're a little tropical, but that's okay. And some more lights here to light up our trees. We like grazing the trees with some uplight. And with all that cool color toward the back of our walkway here and the entrance of Bramblewick, we kept going with the cool theme, and then we will add some warm light here on our pathway to make sure that people can see along the pathway nicely. But again, as I've said in previous videos, we don't make everything super bright. We like to make things more, what's the word? We like to add atmosphere with our lights, and so we keep them relatively dim, as you would see in most Disney parks. When you go to larger, heavily themed parks, you'll notice that the lighting isn't usually very bright. There are a lot of dark areas or areas with very dim lighting, and that's what we went for here. And here's an overall look at our entrance to Bramblewick so far, but don't worry, we still have a long way to go here, and we're going to go ahead and add to it. So we're switching to an afternoon light, to the golden hour, because we wanted to see how this would look. We decided to add a water feature here, and you know, what entrance couldn't use a nice looking water feature? So we brought in more boulders from our suppliers and got those into place as well. Now, when designing theme parks, one thing Winslow and I definitely agreed on every single time was making sure that there were plenty of water features. There's something about water features that just make a theme park feel more comfortable, more inviting, and they also make them more interesting. So when it comes time for you to build a theme park, make sure to add plenty of water features. They tend to make your parks just look better. And of course, as you can see, everywhere we build, we always add lots of landscaping, lots of little rolling hills and walkways that go up and down, you know, paths that where you can't necessarily see everything from the path immediately, but you create nice sight lines. And those paths that aren't just flat add a lot more interest and texture to your park. So don't be afraid to get into a little bit of terraforming, as you see we do, and make sure that you're adding lots of texture and lots of form and varied landscaping all around your park. So of course, when we're talking about that, as you can see, we also made sure to vary the landscape with different types of soils, different types of grass, flowers, plants, and of course water features. And you can see here how we started to put our waterfall in place. and that it's just a little waterfall. It's kind of a small feature here that just welcomes you into Bramblewick. So we got that all into place, and it did take some time to engineer this properly and to get everything right where we wanted it. But once we had it, you'll see the final result and it'll look great. And now that we have our water feature in place, we decided to go ahead and put in some plants and just dress it up a little bit. All different plants and colors. We went mostly with green in this area with a little bit of color in our purples and some other color just to kind of make it stand out a little bit. We got a lot of white flowers here, and this is just to create a neutral, not necessarily a boundary, but a neutral entrance area where people can kind of transition from the plaza and from our western area without it being too jolting. So we went with more neutral colors here in our color design and got everything into place. So here you can see we did add a little bit of purple just because we have so much of it ahead, and so again it just creates a nice gentle transition. And here we wanted to add a wishing well, and we debated back and forth onto which side of the path it belonged on, and we finally came to the conclusion that it belonged over here next to our water feature, because if there's a water feature there, it most likely has a source underground where we could draw water from. And so that's where our well went, and we may eventually make that guest accessible or use that as a vista point where guests can take their photos with some of our characters. And of course we add some uplight, and to stand out against the lighting we will be adding to our trees up front here, we added a mix of both warm and cool colors. The cool color leading into Bramblewick, because as you can see, the area going into Bramblewick is supposed to be a nice cool color scheme. And then coming back out of Bramblewick with the street lights there along the path and the lighting that will be in the hub eventually, and the lighting on our trees here is warm. That gives you that warm on one side, cool on the other for a nice contrast. And there's a look at the beginnings of our entrance to Bramblewick. We're still going to add some more, but I wanted to make sure you got a good look at it at both night and daytime. What a peaceful little place that is. So we went ahead and did more landscaping here, a little more terraforming, and added some more texture here because we don't want to have Bramblewick, your walk into Bramblewick, obscured by, or not obscured, but I guess you could say, we don't want you to be distracted when you walk into Bramblewick. So of course we added some plants, like a small berm here with our plants on it, and got some things in there just to kind of keep the area separate from what will eventually be on the other side of this. So here we added some more of our purple theme, of course, to contrast with the warm colors of the trees, with the uplighting at night and our warm light coming off of the street lights. And then of course more of the soft plants to kind of give it a nice look. And over here, a nice log with some mushrooms on it. We did find these from another creator, and we will make sure that everything that we use here that came from another creator who we borrowed from their designs, they'll be linked in our description below so that you can check out their work as well. And here is a better look at Bramblewick now. Look at that. Now, this area wasn't quite complete yet. So we went ahead and added more embellishment. In just a moment here, you'll see that. And as we transition here to another part of the speed build, we started off with one effect up here, but didn't like the way it looked. And it did make a little bit of noise that we didn't want in the area. So we went ahead with fog, because what is a small town in Europe like this without some fog? And it just lends a little bit to the magical atmosphere of our fantasy area. So we made our foggy entrance here, and added some magical bubbles over there by our log that's laying on the ground near those mushrooms. And here we are at Bramblewick and our entrance. Now, the creations you see here, again, were borrowed from another creator. And so we'll have links to them in the description below where you can see their work. Now this over here is our first attraction. Now, what is the name of this attraction? Well, this ride has its roots in the deepest part of Winslow Everheart's memories. So of course you want to know how did it get its name. Well, one day we were sitting in Winslow's workshop, and we were drawing out the sketches for this attraction, the blueprints and everything, when he suddenly stopped and he said, "Tillywhim." And I said, Tilly what? He smiled like a little kid and he said, "It's what my grandmother used to call me when I got too excited. She would spin me around on this chair, and she said I looked like a little Tillywhim in a windstorm." And just like that, the ride we were about to create had a name. Tillywhim's Twirl. It stuck. So now we're getting into that part of the history of Winslow Everheart. You see, he grew up in a tiny little creaky house in the Midwest, and it had a living room rug that doubled as a racetrack, a battlefield, and a dreamscape depending on the day. You know how you used to play with the little plastic soldiers and make everything into a battlefield, or you take your little miniature cars and make a racetrack and drive them around? Well, that's what he would do on that little rug. And every Sunday afternoon, he'd sit in this chair right next to his grandmother, the world's only woman who could knit socks while watching spaghetti westerns and critiquing fairy tales like she directed them. But when the cartoons were on, Winslow would sit there and just be completely taken in by them, and his mind would run wild with fantasy. And when those cartoons ended and the daylight turned into golden sunlight, you know, the golden hour with the long shadows, Winslow would climb into that old chair and she'd grab it. It was more springs than cushion, but she would give it a hard spin. And Winslow would have his arms out, and according to him, he said he would start yelling, "Tillywhim Twirl!" like it was some sort of sacred rite of passage. To him, it was chaos, it was dizziness, it was freedom, and in his mind, that old chair became a ride, a real one. And so, of course, here years later, Winslow and I made it become reality. Now, we wanted it to feel like childhood happiness got dropped in a blender, and with fantasy and a little bit of reckless abandon. So as we got into the design, boy, that was fun. Winslow gave me 3 rules. He said it's got to spin, it's got to glow, and if it doesn't make you laugh out loud at least once, we failed. Well, originally we thought about a carousel, but that was too tame, and we wanted something a little more exciting in the entry area of our fantasy area of Bramblewick. So we thought teacups. Good idea. But then the twist. Literally, he said elevate it, and that's why it's up higher, because he wanted it to feel like flying. And he wanted it to feel like the air itself got enchanted, which is why we had this enchantment tree right here in the center. And so we took together the old school carnival mechanics of a teacup ride with next level lighting tech, which you'll see soon. And we wrapped it all up in a glow of Winslow's childhood living room. And it became Tillywhim's Twirl, a ride that spins you back into your inner child, back to simpler days. So let's continue building it. So as you can see, we added nature, of course, to our teacup, our Tillywhim's Twirl, and that's in keeping with the story of Winslow and his love of nature. So, being a magical enchanted tree, we went ahead and made sure that we brought in some nature to the attraction. Now, some of our decorating ideas and our build on this started off one way and ended up another, and you'll see that soon as we get deeper into this build. So the original idea was to create a cover over the attraction itself, and so we experimented with many ideas. The first experiment being putting canopies right over the top of the attraction. And it started to look pretty good. We went ahead and placed some of these here and got them where they seemed to look right. And as you'll see, it ended up looking okay in the beginning. But of course, we decided to get a little more creative later on, and we did. But let's see how this evolved over time. So here, we had these canopies, and we went ahead and repainted them. Our art team got together and made better colors that fit the colors of our actual attraction. And so we went with the lighter colors of green and a lighter pink color, some yellows, which in color theory contrast nicely with those pinks and greens. So we went ahead with that, and we tried several designs. We were going to make it kind of at an angle at one point, and voted against that because it just invited too many engineering problems. And then we went ahead and moved it over to where they would be more lined up, all at the same level here. So that's where our original design went, and so that's where you'll see this happening here. Now, of course, in keeping with adding to nature, we went ahead and put these in here. Some nice grapevines to hang from the center all the way across, acting as part of the canopy, and to add some more of that nature feel and just make it feel like you're in the middle of a garden. So we added those in and got those into place. And then, of course, to make sure that we had something to attach them to, we added these really nice hand-carved decorated pillars to our area here and placed those very, very carefully. These would also lend to the that old world atmosphere. And then, of course, we secured them to our pillars. So as time went on, we looked at this and thought, that looks pretty good. And then we did some testing and some guest reviews. We had some sneak peek events, and we didn't quite like the way it looked. And the guest reviews that we had were kind of mixed. So before we get to that part, though, we did add more lighting in here. And so we used our new LED technology, of course. Well, it's not that new, I guess, but we added LED technology instead of old school lights. And this is where we added some more atmosphere and some more color to our attraction. And now that we had some lighting there, you can see our attraction is starting to take a little more shape, and we added more color down below. Next to our other lights down here, our spotlights. And this would add more color from underneath, so the guests on the teacups could see something bright and colorful as well. And that, of course, lit up our vines a little bit more and added more to the atmosphere of our attraction. Now, for those of you who are curious as you watch the building of our park, you may be wondering where we get our music from. Well, I'm actually a composer, and I was able to put this music together for our park. So all of the music you hear in our theme park is music that we came up with ourselves. And of course, Winslow had a lot of say-so in what types of music and the feel and the sound he wanted for each song that's used in our parks. But we do make those songs ourselves, and we may even make those publicly available someday, so you'll have our source music to use in your parks. Let us know in the comments below if maybe that's something you would like in the future. And so here is a look at Tillywhim's Twirl right before we got our feedback from our guests. You can kind of see an overhead view of the beginning of Bramblewick, and we'll get more into how this will look later, but right now we needed to come up with a solution for lighting. And we went ahead with torches because, you know, old world look, and it gives a nice soft light. And again, we're more about the ambience and the atmosphere than we are about lighting paths really, really brightly. So it's enough for our guests to see at night, but also make them feel like they're in a whole other place. And this is a look at the entrance of Bramblewick once again, and a look as we walk through and created our sight lines right toward Tillywhim's Twirl. So as you come up and over, it's a nice reveal, kind of like in a movie where a scene is revealed to you, and we wanted to do the same here, which is why the path is elevated the way it is. So again, terraforming and landscaping make a big difference in your parks. Here it is at a few different times of day, a couple of different times of day, and then of course we needed to create a queue and make our ride accessible. But first we wanted to make sure to fill in this area down here, and we decided to go with stone, and the gray looked okay, but we wanted it to match the decor of our attraction, so we added the colors from our attraction just to kind of give it that fantasy, not quite real world look. It had to be more of a, let's make it fun, bright, colorful all the way around. Well, that was more of Winslow that wanted to make sure of that, and I agreed with him. Well, there you go. Look at that. So the colors looked great together, and we went ahead and kept that. And we needed bases, of course, for our pillars. So we took some rock and got those colored up by our art team so that we could get those into place as well. Now, of course, we wanted to add a little more decor to this, so we wanted to make it more attention-getting. So we found these really nice wrought iron hooks for lanterns and put those on all of our pillars all the way around and got those into just the right place. And these would also help light up our queue and our exit area for the attraction, you know, guest safety and all. But it really added warmth and a welcoming look. So we found these really nice lanterns that were originally meant for our another area of our park, but we thought these looked great here. So of course we made them a nice warm light, nice and soft light, so they wouldn't be too bright, and we got those into place. And the guests during our testing period really liked them, so we kept those just as you see them here. Now, being unselfish builders that we are, of course, we made all of our blueprints for this attraction available in our workshop, which you can find a link in the description below. And you'll be able to go and download this for your own use. Now remember, it won't look exactly like this because we did make some design changes, which you'll see here in a moment. So once again, we had guests come in for a sneak preview and take a ride and look at our designs and give us a nice critique on them. We're always open to critiques, so if you of course see any thing that you think might look better another way, let us know. We can always change our designs over time. That's the best part about a theme park, is they're very fluid and they can change over time. So we're definitely not opposed to different ideas, feedback, and improvements on our own designs. Now, we did work pretty hard on these, but we are definitely not afraid to make changes. We had to build a way for our guests to get on and off the attraction. In the beginning, we just had little step stools and ladders that we let our guests use to get up there during our testing period. But we had to make sure that this park was ready for our regular guests as they would eventually come into the park. And so we went ahead and built our queue area and kept it pretty tight around this around the attraction, and made it to where the line wouldn't be too long at any point, but long enough to accommodate the number of guests that we expect to have in our park in the future. And as you can see, we had a little bit of an engineering problem there. Our designers missed a little something in the design, the construction guys that is, and so our designers had them go back and fix that up a little bit and make our queue area look just right. Then it took some time for us to come up with a way to move our guests from the entrance area around to the other side here, where eventually we ended up with some more attractions and shops and things back there. And so here you can see we went ahead with a slight design change in the pathway. That was one of the feedback, one of the things we had in feedback from our guests during the preview was that they liked the stone look of our queue area so much that they saw in our future plans during the preview. That they wanted it to be kind of the same here, so we went ahead and changed that as well before opening this entire area to the public. And here you can see we had some problems with some of the engineering on this area. We wanted soft curves and we couldn't quite get the look we wanted on this particular corner, so we messed with it over and over and over again until finally we came up with a solution. We came up with, what if we made it like this, a place that would just perfectly hold one of our street lamps. And you'll see what the solution is that we came up with in just a moment here. And here you can see what we came up with was a nice little curl right there where we could perfectly place one of our lamps. Or in this case, one of our torch lamps. And it worked out just right. And so we thought that was kind of a cool idea. So here's an overall look, and you can see we ended up bringing in more of our street lamps here to kind of light the area up without it being too bright. And you can see one of our janitors there walking through and kind of sweeping up and making sure the area is clean as the construction went on. That way we never got behind on keeping the area clean. And here we go. You can see we brought in some benches. And we also brought in some really nice bins. We didn't want our park getting dirty, of course, so we make sure there are plenty of bins absolutely everywhere in our park. And when we were looking at it, we went ahead and added a few more benches to the area and just made our walkways look great. And so here's a better look now at Tillywhim's Twirl. And then this, I think, is where we went ahead with the, well, first you'll get a look at it at different times of day and afternoon during golden hour. And then I think this is where Winslow and I went ahead with our redesign on the canopy area of Tillywhim's Twirl right before we opened the area to the public. Now the public understood, of course, that this area wasn't complete, and they were not disappointed when they eventually got in here, and you'll see what they did later on in the video. Well, in just a few minutes here, we'll get to that. As you can see, this looks really nice here, very peaceful, very quiet, just a really nice vista, really nice viewpoint there, or sightline. And here's where we took down the canopies and just went ahead with our redesign, which we found looked a whole lot better. So if you agree that it looked better, just let me know in the comments below. I'd like to hear what you have to say about it. But this final version that you'll see in just a moment here, you'll see the redesign, is the one that ended up in our workshop. And of course, you can go and download this from our workshop and use it in your own park. You can download our blueprint, our design, and feel free to use that. And of course, you can change anything that you would like as well and make it your own, as always. And so here we added some supports and got those into place. We have to make sure we have strong structures in our parks, as guest safety, of course, is one of our main focuses. And once we had those in place, we went ahead and added some additional decoration to the top of that because it looked a little plain to us. And some of the feedback we got during our guest preview, they wanted something more like what you're going to see here now. So we added these nice little designs up here that we thought looked great, and we'll get those into place. And we got them just right. And of course the posts needed something on top, so we went ahead and found just the right things for those, and we made sure to get them to the right size before we got those placed. We actually ended up not liking the ones that we had, so we borrowed the same ones that we used over on our Mine Train coaster, which you just saw moments ago, and we brought those in because they not only fit the area where we had them, but they also fit here and gave us that nice look for our fantasy area. And then of course, what would these be without a flag on them? So we added those on. And of course, some nighttime lighting. It took us a little time to find exactly the right lighting fixtures that we wanted to use for this, but once we found them, of course, we made them to where they would just graze the edges or the texture of our current fixtures. I'm sorry, our decor up there, and by grazing the light across, it just makes it look so much nicer. So we added those to our flags as well, just grazing the flags and just adding a lot of texture to our flags on top of our posts there. And once we found the right lighting fixtures, which did take some research, we got those into place and lit it up all the way around. And here is where we finally opened it up to our guests. And you'll get to ride along with our guests on their very first ride in Bramblewick. Now, Tillywhim's Twirl is more than just a spin ride. It became the heartbeat of our fantasy area. A perfect balance of chaos and charm, of laughter and light, where kids laugh and grown-ups scream and laugh. One guy on opening night even proposed to his fiancée mid-spin. We still don't know if she said yes or if she was just trying not to get sick, but every time I walk past this ride, I see a vision of Winslow's grandmother, and I can't help but smile. Because that's what this whole park is about. It's memories that move, dreams with gears. And every time I take a spin on that ride, it reminds me of why we built this place to begin with. It's like Winslow always said, and as I tell you at the end of every video, build bigger, build bolder, and may your dreams become your reality. We'll see you in the next episode of Plant Co Playbook.